And they're always really cheesy. Just like the camera's not working. Smile, you're on. All right, here we go, everyone. Go ahead.
So I interviewed my mom. She was 23 during the time of the attacks. For the second question, what did you think about terrorist attacks before 9/11? She thought they were bad still. I mean, she didn't really think they were real because she thought like it could never really happen to her. It was always something that was just in movies. She didn't hear about Al Qaeda or Osama bin Laden until the attacks. During the attack, she was eating with her family.
Where was she?
Just at her house.
Where?
Living room, I think.
No, I mean, where did she live?
Oh, she was in Hong Kong.
Okay, good.
She was eating with her family, and they watched the whole thing happen live. Her immediate reaction was that she was just in shock, and that it felt unreal. And the most vivid memory to her is watching the second plane hit the second tower. What do you think about the response of the people and the international community and the U.S. government? She says she remembers all the TV stations and newspapers covering 9/11 and doing reports. And one of the most vivid memories to her was Bush promising to catch bin Laden and take down Al Qaeda. After the attacks, she knew that Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden were behind it. She thought they attacked the U.S. to kind of stand up and show the United States that like they're not this big superpower and all that. She considers it to be a pivotal event in her own life just because she remembers the reactions of all the people around her. And it helped change things because after this event, there was lots of loss of trust in people, and the security in the airports obviously got a lot better. And she also said it led to loss of trust between countries. The attacks changed her view on terrorism. Now she feels like she realizes it can happen anywhere at any time, and she still feels the same way. And if she learned anything, if the U.S. learned anything, it's better security, better immigration policies, and just how to look out and prevent another terrorist attack like that.
When did she move here?
2008.
Had she been here before?
No.
Oh, so she moved here in 2000. Okay. And did your dad say anything? Was he in somewhere talking to you?
No, my dad wasn't in the house at the time.
Was there anything you didn't know when she talked?
No, I basically knew everything she said.
So you knew that kind of thing. Did she mention any other wars or anything?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so she's in Hong Kong. In fact, that's right. That's China People's Republic took over.
Yeah.
What a time to be there. Now what's going on.
And she said that she still remembers even overseas that there was newspapers covering 9/11 everywhere.
It was even though terrorism happened all the time, it was unprecedented. That's good. I'm glad you interviewed her because she has a different point of view.
Yeah.
So good job. And you waited till your dad left the house. All right. All right, good. Randy, ready? Jane. Oh, give me 1 sec. Go.
Okay, so for the project, I interviewed my mom. She was 17 at the time, and she was a high schooler at PAL here in Helena. She lived with divorced parents, so she went back and forth between her dad's house in California and her mom lived here. What she thought about terrorist attacks before 9/11, basically, she was a high school student, and as you know, like especially in like Helena, Montana, like you just don't like hear about things like terrorist attacks or stuff like that unless it's like big. And so like also she was a high school student, so she just like it wasn't really something of concern to her, like it wasn't something she thought about. on September 11, 2001, she was at school, she said. She was at Powell. She was in one of her male teacher's classrooms, but I don't remember which one she said. And she remembers that he turned on the TV, like all of a sudden he saw like he heard about the news from some other teachers and he turned on the TV and they watched the second tower fall. She said that she was horrified and saddened, but also like angered by the fact that like people would commit such like a vicious crime, especially on like innocent people. And the images that were like most vivid to her were like the people like running all over New York, all the ash and the smoke like just everywhere from the cameras, and then people jumping out of buildings. The response of the people, she said that she doesn't really remember like she doesn't really remember like especially because like being in Helena, like you don't like hear a lot, but she said like I asked her like what she knew about like the response of the US, and I asked like did she know like because she knew that we did like counterattack kind of. And so I asked her like what, and this is a quote from her, and she said that we attacked out of retaliation and that we thought that because they attacked us, and the Saddam, I don't know how to say his name, but Hussein, yes, had weapons of mass destruction. That's why she said that we counterattacked. And then she also said that she didn't know about Al-Qaeda or Osama bin Laden before the attacks, and so it was like eye-opening to like learn about these people. And then she also thought like the reason for the attacks was because they just like didn't like our way of life here, or like it was like a religious thing and they just didn't agree with our religion. She said that it was kind of pivotal in her life because she was 17, so she living with divorced parents. She had to go on the plane a lot to go see her dad, so it kind of scared her as like a minor, and she had to go by herself because her mom was really busy and had 2 other kids back at home. She was really scared to like go on the plane to go see her dad, and then also like TSA like amping up, like it was more stressful. And then like in the history of the U.S., the attack changed things, she said, mostly because it heightened national security, especially she noticed like because of the planes and TSA, and then the amount of soldiers overseas to our counterattack. The attack did change her view on terrorism because she was young and she didn't think about these things, like it just wasn't something that was like a pressing matter, especially being in high school, where it's just not something you really like care about or think about a lot until it happens to you. And so she said that she was unaware of like the threat of terrorism or like what terrorism really was, and it made her more aware and fearful of another attack or just terrorism in general. And then she said that from the attack, the U.S. basically, we learned, but we didn't learn to pay more attention to foreign affairs and who like enters our country. But then she also said that like we didn't learn we kind of did, but like at the same time didn't learn to like not meddle in foreign affairs that like don't entirely concern us. But then she also became more aware of like the U.S. and both herself and like the U.S. as a whole became more aware of the threat of terrorist attacks and how to handle them. And just really,
Good answer. And did you know, how much of that did you know?
none. I didn't even know she was here still. I didn't know she was here yet.
Oh, really? So
Mhm.
that is interesting about I didn't even think about like divorced parents have to fly all the time. And that's just not knowing that. And I'm glad you mentioned about the Saddam Hussein. That weapons of mass destruction propaganda was really effective.
I asked her because it was actually yesterday. Yesterday I was like, because I hadn't presented yet, so I was kind of like, does she know like why like we like counterattacked or anything like that? And I asked her, and that was her response. I was like, you don't need to search it up, just like tell me like anything you do know.
It's been, people are busy. All right, good job. Nice. All right. Okay. Aurora, since you're looking at me. I caught your eyes. You got this. 1 second. Nice job. Okay, go.
So I interviewed my mom, and she said she didn't really know about the terrorist attacks from before 9/11, and she hadn't really heard of Al-Qaeda or Osama bin Laden. But she was aware of like there was tensions around that like area of the world, and she just kind of knew like something wasn't right over there. She was a freshman in English here at Capitol High School. I think the teacher's name was like started with an M. And
Murray?
no, it's a Moran, Miss Moran.
Well, Moran, sure, yeah.
And she said that they had the news going, like CNN or something, and it just kind of happened, and they were all just kind of in shock. Some kids started crying, she said, and that like it was just kind of new to them. Her immediate reaction was, sorry. She said that it was kind of really a blur, and that she doesn't really remember a lot of it, other than just like most classes having it on their TV, and like kids kind of like looking kind of solemn in the hallways. She said she didn't know much about like the whole government and international community thing about it, but she definitely thought it was about to change, or like things like that were gonna change. She also said that this definitely was a pivotal point in her life, just because it made her more aware of like what was going on. And she said it was kind of concrete after people became wary of Afghanistan. She said it did change her view on terrorism, and probably she said it put a more personal kind of area on it, and she saw what was like kind of going on in the world because being a freshman in high school. I don't know. And then she said that they became more they just became more secure with travel, and it kind of changed the way that people were treating like people who weren't like born in America, things like that. And it just kind of became something that was just like kind of really important to her. I don't know. I did ask her before, like in middle school when we were first learning about it, and she didn't really want to get into it, but she did tell me like, oh, I was in high school and stuff, and it was just kind of like interesting.
Did you say anything about Iraq or Afghanistan or anything?
Yeah, she did say that Afghanistan afterward was kind of a turning point because it solidified a lot of the weariness she had after that.
She would have been a junior when we did Iraq, so.
Yeah.
So you kind of knew some basics, but not.
Yeah.
Did you ever talk to your dad about this?
No, I haven't, but I might.
Yeah. It's good to kind of find out what it did. That's funny in Moran's class. It's weird all these teachers are off and it's all not. All right, good job. Your dad went to Cal.
Yeah.
Okay, Evelyn, ready?
Okay, I interviewed my mom. At the time, she was 21 and she lived in Rawlins, Wyoming. And she said she didn't know what a terrorist attack was before 9/11, but she had heard of Osama bin Laden because she saw like an interview about him, and he talked about his affiliation to Al Qaeda and stuff. So she didn't know who he was and stuff. So when she found out about it, she like dropped my brothers off at daycare, but she couldn't stay for long because she had to go to work. So when she went to work, she saw it on the news, and she just remembers like everyone at her work watching it. And when she first saw it, she didn't know what was going on. She didn't understand it very much. And she said that her most vivid memory was the man jumping from the building. And she remembers how people began, like after the attack, people began to become racist. She noticed that more, and she also remembers people being there for the first responders and how the airport's changed. And now she doesn't like flying because of it, because it's a bother to go through TSA. And she said Osama bin Laden and Al Qaeda were behind the attacks, and she said that they attacked, like, I don't really remember what she said, but about the oil. She went on about the oil quite a bit. And then she said it wasn't very pivotal in her life, except for that she like learned about terrorist attacks and like, yeah. But she said it changed American society because people became more patriotic, and yeah, it changed her view on terrorism because she learned what it was, and she still feels the same today, that it's like more present than she thought. And she thinks the U.S. learns to take threats seriously because she said that he had threatened the U.S. before 9/11, and it also strengthened America's national values. And I asked if she had any more information, and she was a dispatcher, and at like her academy, she read the 9/11 transcripts, and she couldn't even get through all of them because they were so heartbreaking, and it almost made her walk away from being a dispatcher.
Really?
And she was like one of the only classes that read it because she asked her other friend and they didn't read it in their class.
What year did she go through?
I think it was like 2012 or something. I don't really know.
Wow. Yeah, I guess that's, you want to see how emergency people react in emergency.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
No, she told me that, and I was like, whoa.
Wow, that would be hard. God. And how, did she mention anything about the other Iraq or Afghanistan?
No, not really.
Not reading the transcripts. The tiny bit we saw.
Yeah, she said it was really heartbreaking and she couldn't read through the whole thing.
I guess we have no active emergency. Well, I'm glad you interviewed. That's a good thing to know. That's really interesting by your mom. All right, good job. All right. So, everybody, let's take out that worksheet for episode 2. Perfect. So I know we had to kind of cut it in half, but I really wanted to make sure we had time to get all these done. And with all the absences, you just never know. Great interviews. I really hope you learned a little bit. And it's just good to go talk to your mom or dad or somebody else about this kind of thing. Because a lot of times, you're frankly at the age where you're breaking away from them and you don't talk as much as you will probably regret this down the road. But, that's the way life is. I did the same thing 75 years ago when I was your age. So, with that, let's go ahead and take out the worksheet for episode number 2. Are we right on that? We got about halfway through. Are we in question 6, 5? Does that sound about right? All right, good. Oh yeah, we just finished right when Bush was informed. We just had My Pet Goat was the book he was reading. Yes, there'd be a lot. Eventually, people who didn't like President Bush. My Pet Goat jokes. But that's what it was, a photo op. And Johnson. Oh, I gotta shut this off just a second.